Dear students, thank you very much for listening to this video. The video is about the drivers and barriers to cross-border e-commerce, evidence from Spanish individual behavior. In this video, we are going to deal with one of the many interesting questions that we can address with the latest data set from the National Institute of Statistics that deals with the ICT equipment and use of telecommunications by the Spanish population. This is a project that has been undertaken by our group of researchers, in particular Ángel Valarezo Hunda, Teodosio Pérez Amaral, Íñigo Herguera, Teresa Muñoz, Karim Muñoz, and Rafael López of the University Complutense of Madrid, and also from the University at a distance in Madrid. I want to first emphasize that there are a lot of things that you can look at in this particular survey, but we are going to concentrate on some of the more interesting and new ones. In general, in several studies, we are working on the behavior by children, e-health, e-government, e-commerce, e-banking, cloud services, voice over IP, and some other more traditional ones like the demand for broadband and the mobile demand of broadband. So there are a lot of things that we can look at, but in this particular lesson, we are going to concentrate on cross-border e-commerce. We are going to look at what are the determinants of the individual decision to perform cross-border e-commerce in order to learn why the people behave like they behave, and if that behavior can be modified in the direction that the authorities want to modify. We are going to use a survey in this particular case of 16,209 individuals from the National Statistics Institute of 2016 on equipment and use of ICT in households by individuals. And it is a survey that is done also across all the European Union countries. There are comparable data then by in other countries, and this particular study could be well extended to other countries. The conclusions we would like them to extend to other countries, but the studies in general would have to be done by teams in other countries. We are going to use discrete choice models and random utility maximization models with logistic regression techniques. Those are techniques that are nowadays well known, and we don't have to explain them very well in detail. We are going to look at three aspects of cross-border e-commerce. The first one is the total cross-border e-commerce. The second one is European Union cross-border e-commerce, and the rest of the world cross-border e-commerce. So those are three different but very related markets that we're going to look at in this particular video. The determinants that we're going to look at here are gender, education, digital skills, online opinion seeker, and nationality. We also consider income and rural disposition and we want to discriminate between relevant and irrelevant variables. The idea is that in principle, anyone could tell you more or less if a variable is going to be significant or not, and if it's going to be have a positive or negative sign. But in practice, nobody can really guess exactly what is the size of the coefficient and the significance of the coefficient. Sometimes the sign can be guessed, but in most cases it is unclear exactly what is going to be after the fact. Then we're going to go to policy recommendations, caveats, and research agenda that we're going to talk about later at the end of the presentation. The first question is, why do we care about cross-border e-commerce? And the answer is that the digital single market strategy followed by the European Union is based upon the idea that the digital single market can help to organize and bring competitive pressures into the physical markets and offline markets. So we will see that there are mainly three pillars for this digital single market strategy, and that is the access to digital goods and services, the environment, so that is the right conditions that access can be guaranteed, and the economy and society, so maximizing the growth potential of the economies would be an important pillar and objective of this cross-border e-commerce strategy. For this digital single market strategy of the European Union, there are benefits, barriers, and limitations. The benefits would be that a variety of products and sellers would be available for all consumers, that the reduction in search cost would be significant, and the ability for comparison between different offers. It would save time, it would be better for spending planning, competition between sellers would be more intense, and it would give a voice to the individual consumers and improve traceability, because opinions would help of some consumers would help the choice of other consumers. The barriers related to the internet penetration and equipment are also a concern, and it will be something that would need to be dealt with. It says also that it improves traceability, which is a positive thing. The barriers related to internet penetration and equipment should be removed or diminished, and also the ideas of going digital from one type of sellers that may be appropriate for some or several other types of sellers. It is also interesting for general public, private and academic interest, and that that is for this topic is interesting for the general public and also for private and academic interest. The European Commission in several different approaches and reports. 2015 and 2017 have studied this issue. The International Telecommunication Union, which is a very important international body of discussion of different policies worldwide. PayPal is also interested, McKinsey is also interested, and in Spain, Cardona et Alia, Martens, Garín Muñoz and Pérez Amaral 2011, Garín Muñoz 2018, and Gómez Herrera et Alia 2014 have treated this particular topic. And The Economist in 2017 have also devoted a specific issue to e-commerce, which is very interesting. It is also interesting to notice that Alibaba and Amazon are very interested in going global. And here in the photograph, you see Jeff Bezos from Amazon, and he is standing in a truck painted in colors typical of India. So here they really want to look global. It says here that it is a market in which there is a lot of room for growth. There is a lot of possibilities for growth ahead. It is important to see that there are huge efforts by large multinational companies to try and deliver goods. You see, this is a drone trying to deliver goods for Amazon, and they, depending on the situation of the house and the conditions, they may use a drone instead of a physical person, or they can even use a little motor cart like this to, depending on the conditions of the roads and the conditions of the houses, to be able to deliver their products. Of course, this is very much related to artificial intelligence and all those tools that help us understand and help Amazon and other retailers to do a better job than if it was done by hand or by just human beings. It is important also to understand that the future of online retailing is bright, while the future of offline retailing is quite dark. The decline of established American retailing threatens jobs. This is a headline that was seen in that particular time, and you see that the sign of a shopping center looks very much run down, and shopping centers are having a very hard time in the States and also in other European countries. So they're feeling the competition from online shops very sharply. Then the idea is that the shopping mall is not a factory anymore, and it is the shopping mall is where American jobs are most at risk, and also European jobs. You see here the variety of things that you can get from Amazon and from other retailers, and the easiness of turning back the product, and the bigger and bigger way in which they try to sell the idea that confidence is their utmost preoccupation. If you look at Now, the data from Spain, the penetration rates of e-commerce and cross-border e-commerce with other European Union countries, you see that the penetrations in blue, they are the e-commerce penetration, and the penetrations in orange are the penetrations of cross-border e-commerce trade. So if you look at the place in which Spain is, you will see that we have a quite low penetration for both e-commerce and cross-border e-commerce. If you compare it with the rest of the European Union, we are like close to the average, but of course we cannot compare this with poor countries like the ones in the right-hand side, or with countries like the ones in the left-hand side. So the countries we would like to look like, the countries that are nowadays parliamentary monarchies: United Kingdom, Denmark, Luxembourg, Norway, and Sweden. Those are the countries that are ahead of us, and those are the countries that we would like to compare with. The lower, the right-hand side tail of the distribution here, we don't want to be there, we don't want to be compared, because it is, most of this is differences in income and other conditions across countries. So this is the comparison across countries. We are not doing it in this paper. We are just doing a comparison within the country and within different individuals in the country. Now, if you want to look at the evolution within the country along different services and also along time, you see that e-commerce goes from 19 in 2008 to 44 in 2016. And this is the upper curve here. And then we see that the yellow curve is the cross-border e-commerce, and the other curves, the green is the cross-border e-commerce with the EU, and the other blue here is the cross-border e-commerce with the rest of the world. So you see at a glance that the evolution is positive, but it is insufficient compared with other countries. You see here the question that is in the survey that is asking the different individuals where they buy from. So we get the information from this particular question and also complement it with the rest of the survey. So now let's look at the data that we have. I just told you that we have an annual continuous survey and that it is homogenized and comparable among European Union states. The 16,209 respondents represent 16 million dwellings and 34 million people. Dwelling here means a physical place where people can live, whatever that is, maybe a house, a flat, or an apartment, whatever. And that is the dwelling. And then the people is the total population of Spain, including non-Spanish residents. What does it have? What information do we have in this particular survey. We have information about the households. We know the type of equipment they have, the internet access. We know the number of people that live in the house and their characteristics. We know which PCs they have and what internet usage it is done by the whole population of the house. Also the usage by children, internet usage by the respondents, e-government, privacy, security concerns, digital skills, e-commerce, other sociodemographics like where they live, in which demographic groups they are situated. So we have a lot of information about this. We cannot use all the information, but we have selected the information that we thought would be more relevant after some trial and error. And you see that we have information on age, gender, education, habitat, household members, nationality, occupation, income, and here we have information on the penetration of each of the previous services, total e-commerce, cross-border e-commerce, cross-border to the e-commerce to the EU, and cross-border to e-commerce to the rest of the world. So that is essentially all the information we have that is relevant. We also have a lot of information about in which province they live and which autonomous community and many other things that we may want to look at here or at any other points. Now in transparency number 8, you see that we made a zoom so that you can see the content better than just looking at the original screen. And you see that there are different behaviors, because you see that in the first and the rest of the columns, you see that gender makes a difference in terms of usage. You see that age makes a difference also. So the more age, the less use in general of these services. Education is also important to explain this type of services. And again, you see that the more education, the more use of this type of service. So we can follow like this for the rest of the descriptive statistics. And you see that this is just a description. This is not causality. This is not telling you what is important for or how important it is for. We don't know that. Here we are just classifying. This is descriptive statistics. We are not saying that there is a causality or a relationship for sure, because this is a relationship between one variable, in particular e-commerce for instance, and age. We are not taking into account that age is correlated with other variables. For doing that, we need a model and we need a estimation techniques that would help us measure how much is the effect of one variable into the dependent variable. See again in page 8 again that we have a zoom telling us what is the relationship between habitat and the e-commerce, for instance, or household members with e-commerce or nationality. Those are just relations that look sensible, but we cannot measure yet what is the effect of one variable on the dependent variable. Again, we have nationality, occupation, income,